Hey, boys and girl. Statistically, there's probably one of you. The current state of my Uber computer, Suboptimus Prime, is, well, it looks like this. Let's just say I bought a very expensive motherboard from exactly the company that decided to screw everything up for my generation of processors. As such, I'm back on Old Faithful that I had bestowed upon my kids. That also means I don't have access to any of the projects I'd been working on. I was almost done with like a long 45-minute or so look at Redfall. When will I get my Beast Lord up and running? Hopefully soon. In the interim, I decided I still wanted to talk about Redfall in a more condensed and freeform type of format. The game doesn't deserve the effort I'd put into that video anyways. Due to these technical difficulties, my plan is just to run this Redfall trailer on a loop while I talk over it. I'm sorry, but I don't have access to my footage or any of the other assets that I have usually, so this is going to appear low effort, even in contrast with my usual work. The thing about Redfall is, I was genuinely excited for it. I saw the trailer that I'm playing in the background, and I got flashbacks from a film that I enjoyed in my past. In the movie 30 Days of Night, vampires take over a town in Alaska. Near the Earth's poles, there are areas that remain in constant day or constant night due to the Earth's tilt. The premise of being trapped in a town, trying to survive until the sun returns in 30 days is an interesting one, and the film executed it to great success. Well, in my opinion, I suppose. In Redfall, the vampires have blocked out the sun and forced the ocean to retreat on a small island in New England. The juxtaposition of a charming New England town with bloodthirsty vampires is a fun and novel idea. Many people have made statements about how this game is so generic and it was obviously forced on by the publisher. Now, on the gameplay and systems front, I very much concur with this assessment. The actual premise I described is actually pretty neat in my opinion. Speaking frankly, I can't think of any games in a setting like this, and vampire PvE first-person shooters? There can't be a lot of them, at least not that I could think of off the top of my head. If anyone wants to reply with one, I'd be happy to check it out. So now that you know what my expectations were, let me explain how this game let me down. I have to start with the fact that there's no aim down sight sensitivity option. How this is a thing is beyond me. It's mind-boggling. It's like my mind is in a bottle. Because of this, I literally never felt good aiming down the sights of a gun. Then there's the fact that the reload animations are realistically long. Good God, the shotguns. I'll get to the difficulty in a moment, but the shotguns take so goddamn long to reload that I just stopped using them. Arcane, this is a sin against game design. You ruined shotguns. If you see gameplay from a creator on this game and it seems like they're just awful at aiming, don't blame them. They likely could not find a comfortable sensitivity to play at. I know I couldn't. The hipfire is wildly inaccurate, so you're encouraged to ADS, but then it feels so bad when you do. As soon as you aim down sights, your sensitivity is cut down by about a quarter. To give you a contrast, I normally like to have my ADS sensitivity close to my walking hipfire sensitivity. So this is a harsh contrast for me. And also I'm a low sensitivity person. To correct this error, I had the walking hipfire sensitivity crazy high, where it felt like I was just bouncing around wildly, just so the aiming could feel somewhat responsive to me. I started with this because this is where a shooter lives and dies. If the shooting is bad, the game is bad. Period. No further elaboration needed. I actually like the diversity of the vampires. There's actually a good amount of different types. Where the game is let down is in the difficulty. I played on everything from the highest difficulty to the lowest. People have made a big deal about how brain dead the AI is. Especially for the humans, that's definitely true. What's terrible is that depending on where you are, you can fight a boss that is killed in seconds, or a normal vampire that takes a whole clip. On all difficulties, this is a problem. There are these areas called hives that emit a sphere of influence. Every vampire inside the sphere are buffed substantially. They're also stuffed with vampires. As such, you can get vampires that take a lot of hits. Then you also have painfully slow reloads and a swarm of vampires chasing you in circles. This can create a severe difficulty spike. On top of it, it's just not fun. Your medkits have a pretty long windup before they take effect. You could trigger 10 enemies to charge you and simply not even have time to heal. The basic vampires have extremely limited movesets. They'll charge or teleport at you and then take a wild swipe. In a one-on-one battle, they could be easily circle strafed. In a 1v10, this can be potentially a fun challenge, so long as you have guns that can effectively fight them without being caught up in slowly reloading your weapon while attempting to strafe them. Towards the late game, I began avoiding these hive areas. The juice just wasn't worth the squeeze. The end of the hives lead to a bevy of weapons and ammo, the problem being that I almost never found anything of worth. It was just tons of junk. It's a shame because I like the procedural nature of hives and how they twisted the real world environments and incorporated them. They just simply became a chore from a gameplay perspective. Speaking of junk, the hives weren't the only source of junk. Most of the weapons felt like junk. You're constantly coming across weapon variants that you will immediately disassemble. Even the gold, top tier weapons didn't feel impactful for long. The loot system in this game let me down. It let everyone down. I'm going to use an example from my childhood here. In Diablo 2, I could find a gold chest piece that was level 9. I might use that chest piece until I was level 18, because it was so powerful and had such advantageous effects that even gear of a much higher level was not worth switching for. Redfall doesn't get this. A gold weapon is good for maybe 3 levels, maybe. Then a blue weapon that's 2 levels higher might be an upgrade. The other problem is that the enemies scale with you in such a way that no higher level gear ever actually feels more powerful. It feels the same as what you were just using. However, the old gun you were just using now feels less effective than harsh language. The gear system just needs a whole new retool. The game isn't long enough to, you can't. Then there are the vampire files you can equip that fill the void of an accessory slot that are meant to fill the holes in your character build. I said they're meant to. They're all borderline useless. There was one super high level one that I found from doing the most interesting side quest in the game, but for the most part, they only impart generic health buffs or reduce cooldown. Boring. By the way, I hate cooldown timers. If you want to ensure that I won't use your abilities, put them on cooldown. Give me a resource to monitor or refill. I hate this mechanic. I know that's a pretty broad statement, and I mean it just as broadly. It might make sense in WoW or something. I don't know. I've never played that. I just cannot think of a game that was enriched with cooldowns. It works in Overwatch, but that's as far as I'll go. It works. I don't appreciate it. Got a super powered shot? Let me power it back up with my regular fire. Give me something more than just a clock to monitor. Sorry, this is a side rant. Sorry, I'll get back on topic. On the technical side of things, this game is a bit messy with the telltale signs of shader compilation stutter that have become my arch nemesis since damn near every game seems to be built on Unreal 4. I capped my frame rate to 60 while playing, and this minimized the damage a bit, but I won't make any excuses there. The bigger problem for me is that the game seemed to have unfinished geometry. I'm not a game dev or even really that smart of a person. The best way I can describe it is that I was constantly getting stuck or clipping into the environment. Since your best way to escape the basic vampires was to strafe, you're often backpedaling while shooting at them. I would get stopped dead in my tracks as I stuck on a small rock or a tree root. While climbing a ledge, you might have to make 5 attempts before the game recognizes this as the appropriate angle of approach for your ascent. It's just buns. It just feels bad. From a visual standpoint, many have made their point that they think this game looks bad. The actual art style could work for me. The hyper-stylized, lanky vampire look is kind of cool in my opinion. I don't even mind the weird caricature faces. What doesn't work is the lighting. The shadows pop in and out of existence, and the baked lighting solutions just don't work at times. Also, let me just add this in here. I forgot to write it in this version of the script, but the game is supposed to have the sun blocked out, and it's just too goddamn bright outside sometimes. It's weird. The whole point is it's vampires. It should be night, always night. Okay, continuing. The weird thing is that the trailer that I'm looping is actually a pretty good representation of what the game looks like when the systems are working. There are moments where you enter a cave or a church attic where the game does achieve a vibe for me. Sadly, it's just that flickering shadows are not my jam. It fails more often than it succeeds. The cutscenes are that of a diorama style. Everyone universally hates this. Assuming the game functioned correctly as a multiplayer shooter, I could get over this pretty easy, to be honest with you. Each one of these scenes are voiced by the player character, so this means that they recorded 4 separate narrators depending on the player character choice. I can live with this budget decision. It's obvious that they tried to keep these short and to the point. Likely for budget reasons, but also because a prolonged cutscene-filled game would be grating in a multiplayer PvE game. It's cheaply done, but it's not damning in my opinion. What is damning is the complete lack of animation for all the non-player characters for the rest of the game. Much is made about blocking in TV shows and films. You won't catch a scene in a big budget film with a shot reverse shot with 2 characters standing idly. This is the only kind of interaction in Redfall. No one's readying supplies or cleaning a weapon while talking to you. For Christ's sakes, give me the dock worker stereotype from Law and Order, refusing to stop work while being questioned by the police. Something! The lack of animation only further imparts that feeling of interacting with a mannequin. I don't think the graphics would be as universally panned if Arcane Austin had bothered to animate some life into the town and its inhabitants. The city is actually pretty cool and interesting. They really captured a small town charm, in my opinion. There are silly squirrel knickknacks laying around everywhere that you can imagine your great aunt would have on her shelf in her wood-paneled living room. I've never personally visited any of the New England towns that this game is trying to replicate, but it seemed like a faithful and loving recreation in my opinion. But again, it's an uneducated one. The town has the old-timey theater, the local lobster shack, the general store. You get the gist. Combined with the interesting topography of the island, there could have been something here. It works better on a postcard. Once you're actually exploring around, you find tons of examples of doors and no textures. Even worse, a door texture but with no handle. When someone says that Redfall was unfinished, this is demonstrable fact. This is a small New England town in the middle of a vampire attack. There are boarded off buildings. This is fine and makes sense to me. If you don't have time to finish off the little house and make it explorable, fine, board it up. Don't put a goddamn door with no handle on it. Arcane is famous for their immersive sims. These are games that give you numerous options to solve any given scenario. Early on in the game, they give you a prompt about how you can sneak into the firehouse or you can clear the vampires. My friend Nico asked aloud, "There are 3 fucking vampires here. Why the hell would I sneak around them?" Bingo. There's no proper stealth system. The few moments where being stealthy might be an attractive option, it usually pounds out horribly. The hives are filled with vampires, and you might be inclined to sneak past them. Once you trigger one, it tends to trigger the whole hive. It's always a better option just to fight them. A failure at a sneak attempt could mean being surrounded in a hurry. Again, though, the hives never give you anything of value. The second half of the game, I started to avoid them. I started to rant on the hives again. The point is, an immersive sim, this is not. Somebody should tell Arcane, though, because they seem to be the last to know this. The biggest problem, other than the shooting mechanics, is that this is a multiplayer game with non-functioning multiplayer. On PC, you need to sign into Bethesda. Stop it, Bethesda. There's only one Steam. You're just scaring people away. I'm so tired of all these goddamn companies and their logins. Once you convince your friends to play with you, and it does take convincing, since they know the game is bad, and their file won't even get any progress. So now you've done that, you have to deal with awful netcode that seems to get vastly worse the more distance your party gets from each other. Shoot, Steve dropped out. Well, now we have to quit out and remake the lobby, since he can't just rejoin us. Why? I don't have a clue. What year is this? Where did it save last? I beat the game, and I still don't understand how the save system works. You'll get these vampire chompers popping up, which one might assume would indicate a save. Then I'd reload the game, and the last 2 hives I just cleared are back. I started the game with some friends and got to level 9. Well, now Nick wants to join with a level 1 character. Terrible idea. He was incapable of killing anything. From what I could tell, the level scaling of the enemies only seems to be taking into account the host. Since he couldn't kill anything, he wasn't leveling up. As I kept leveling, Nick kept falling more and more behind. It was a dreadful experience. Then Steve's Bethesda account deleted his character, so he was out. Nico just didn't want to play it anymore because he respects his time. Admirable. For most of the game, I ended up playing this solo. The game design was clearly aimed at a full party, but for myriad reasons, I couldn't tell you how that looks towards the end of the game. If you're going to create a multiplayer PvE game, then you have to set it up to encourage that behavior. In 2023, it's hard to get people together to join the game in the first place. You can't add extra hurdles to this. The server disconnects are bad enough, but in 2023, I should be able to invite my friend to a game that I'm playing and have them able to join. Diablo 2 came out in like the year 2000, and you could join active games, advance quest lines for all players, and not be afraid your character progression would get erased. This is just a poor attempt here. My longer format video went on like this for a while, and in even more depth. You get the point. The game doesn't look right, doesn't play right, it's just not good. I had high hopes for this game. I wanted it to be good. There aren't a lot of new IPs these days, and especially co-op multiplayer games. So when people shit on this game, I get a little bit butthurt because it's like, I don't want people to be discouraged to try and make games like these. Some of the coverage I've seen on it seems to be coming from people who just want to clown on another failed Microsoft game or something. I can readily acknowledge this game's bad, but I just ask that people give it shit for the right reasons. This isn't a damning indictment on Game Pass. Stop with your clickbait bullshit. It's just a bad game that was taken out of the oven far too soon. I still say that a vampire hunting game could be a real good deal. If someone takes on this premise with a slightly darker tone, I'd be interested. Heck, even this more silly tone with better execution would still definitely work for me. I'll be the first to admit I have real junk food tastes in every form of media. Having said that, I still have a low bar that needs to be stepped over. I expect my games to function as expected. My new motherboard is shipped. I hope to get my PC up and running soon, and I'm really concerned that some of my projects and media might have been wiped. Whatever grim scenario that eventually awaits me, I'll get back on my feet and make proper Shepherd Games content moving forward. I might make some kind of response video to Microsoft's showcase event, just because it's something I can easily do from this PC, and there are a bunch of games coming from them that I'm actually really looking forward to playing. If that isn't the kind of content you're looking for from me, I feel you. I'll get back to it once I get myself back on my feet. I'll definitely be bummed if my Drakengard save is gone, but pray for me. Peace, everyone. Thanks for stopping by.